I was 70 years old when I decided to do the most reckless thing of my entire life. I booked a flight to South Africa, alone, to swim with great white sharks. No cage between us. Just me, the ocean, and apex predators that have survived for millions of years. Everyone thought I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But what I found in those dark waters changed everything I thought I knew about fear, about aging, and about what it means to truly be alive. Let me take you back to where this insanity began. It was 3 weeks after my 70th birthday. I was sitting in my living room, surrounded by flowers and cards that said things like "Happy birthday to a wonderful woman" and 70 years young. I smiled politely when I opened them, thanked everyone who called, and ate a slice of cake I didn't really want. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the silence and felt absolutely nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Just this hollow emptiness that had been growing inside me for years. I had done everything right. Married at 23. Raised 3 children. Supported my husband's career while putting my own dreams on hold. Volunteered at church. Hosted dinner parties. Kept a clean house. Bought the right clothes. Said the right things. Laughed at the right jokes. I was the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect friend. And somewhere along the way, I had disappeared completely. The call came 2 days later. My friend Margaret had died. Suddenly. A heart attack in her sleep. She was 71. We had known each other since we were young mothers, raising our kids together, sharing recipes and complaints about our husbands. Margaret was the one who always talked about traveling after retirement, about all the places she wanted to see. She had a list. Paris, Rome, Japan, New Zealand. She kept it in her kitchen drawer, written on yellowed paper that she added to every few months. She never got to any of them. I went to her funeral and watched her daughter cry over a casket, talking about how her mother had sacrificed everything for her family. How she never complained. How she always put others first. Everyone nodded approvingly. I felt sick. Because that's exactly what they would say about me someday. And it terrified me more than anything ever had. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I asked myself a question I had been avoiding my entire life. When was the last time I did something for myself? Not something practical or responsible. Something wild. Something that scared me. Something that made me feel genuinely alive. I couldn't remember. Not a single moment. At 20, I had wanted to be a journalist. I had dreams of traveling to distant countries, writing stories that mattered, living a life of adventure and purpose. But then I met David. He was handsome, stable, studying to be an accountant. My parents loved him. Everyone said we were perfect together. When he proposed, I said yes because it seemed like the right thing to do. The safe thing. I told myself I could still pursue journalism. After the wedding. After we got settled. After the kids were older. After. 50 years of after, and I never did any of it. I got up, went to my computer, and started searching. I don't even know what I was looking for at first. Adventure travel for seniors. Solo trips for women. Bucket list experiences. Things to do before you die. And then I saw it. A video of a woman swimming with great white sharks off the coast of South Africa. No cage. Just her and these massive, powerful creatures gliding through the water like ghosts. My heart was pounding just watching it. I had always been terrified of sharks. As a child, I refused to go into the ocean past my knees. Even swimming pools made me anxious if I couldn't see the bottom. The idea of being in open water with a predator that could kill me in seconds should have made me close the laptop and go back to bed. Instead, I clicked book now. I didn't tell anyone at first. I made the arrangements quietly. Flights. Accommodation. The shark diving experience with a company in Gansby. I used money from my savings account, money I had been setting aside for years without any real plan for it. My husband had left me a comfortable widow after he passed 5 years ago, but I had never spent it on anything except bills and groceries and gifts for my grandchildren. This felt dangerous. Irresponsible. Selfish. It felt perfect. When I finally told my daughter, she reacted exactly how I expected. She called me twice in 1 hour, her voice rising with each conversation. "Mom, you can't be serious. You're 70 years old. What if something happens? What if you get hurt? What if you have a medical emergency on the other side of the world? What will people think?" That last question hit me harder than she intended. What will people think? That was the question that had ruled my entire life. Don't be too loud. Don't take up too much space. Don't wear clothes that are too bright or too revealing. Don't laugh too hard. Don't cry in public. Don't do anything that might make people uncomfortable. Be nice. Be agreeable. Be small. I was done being small. My son was slightly more supportive, though I could hear the concern in his voice. "If this is really what you want, Mom, then I guess you should do it. But please be careful. Promise me you'll be careful. Maybe you should take someone with you. Maybe one of your friends would go." I promised him I would be careful, even though we both knew that swimming with sharks was the exact opposite of careful. And I didn't want to take anyone with me. This journey was mine alone. My youngest called me brave. Then she asked if I was having some kind of crisis. Maybe, I told her. But if I am, it's about 40 years overdue. The truth is, I was terrified. In the weeks leading up to the trip, I almost canceled a dozen times. I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, imagining all the ways this could go wrong. I pictured myself in the water, paralyzed with fear, humiliating myself in front of strangers half my age who would wonder what this old woman was doing there. I pictured the sharks. Those dead eyes. Those teeth. I pictured my children getting a phone call that their mother had died doing something stupid and reckless. But every time I came close to canceling, I thought about Margaret. I thought about her list of dreams she never pursued. I thought about her daughter crying at the funeral, talking about sacrifice and duty. I thought about dying with that same list, unfinished, gathering dust in a drawer somewhere. I thought about the woman I had been at 20, before marriage and motherhood and all the compromises that came with them. That girl had wanted to travel the world. She had wanted to write. She had wanted to do something that mattered. What would she think of the woman I had become? Would she even recognize me? I couldn't cancel. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because I was more afraid of staying the same. The day I left, my daughter drove me to the airport. She was quiet the whole way, her hands gripping the steering wheel too tightly. I could feel her anxiety radiating off her in waves. At the departure gate, she hugged me and whispered, "Please come home safe." I promised I would. I didn't tell her that part of me wasn't planning on coming home the same person who left. The flight to Johannesburg was long. 20 hours with layovers. I sat next to a young couple on their honeymoon, glowing with excitement about their safari adventure. They asked what brought me to South Africa. When I told them, their eyes widened. "You're going to swim with sharks? At your age?" The girl covered her mouth. "That's so cool. I wish my grandmother was that adventurous." I smiled, but inside I was screaming. What am I doing? This is insane. I'm 70 years old. I should be home, baking cookies for my grandchildren, not flying across the world to throw myself into the ocean with predators. But I didn't turn back. I couldn't. When I landed in Cape Town, everything felt surreal. The airport was bustling with travelers, the air warm and unfamiliar. I collected my luggage and found the shuttle that would take me to Gansby, a small coastal town about 2 hours away. The drive was beautiful. Rolling hills, vineyards, glimpses of the ocean in the distance. I tried to appreciate it, but my stomach was in knots. The guest house where I was staying was small and charming, run by a friendly woman named Elsa who looked at me with barely concealed surprise when I told her why I was there. "Most of our guests are much younger," she said carefully. "But I'm sure you'll do wonderfully." She didn't sound sure at all. I unpacked my small suitcase in the tiny room. Everything I had brought seemed wrong. Too old. Too practical. I looked at myself in the mirror. Gray hair pulled back in a sensible bun. Wrinkles mapping out 70 years of smiling politely. Clothes that were comfortable but unremarkable. When had I stopped trying? When had I decided that my appearance didn't matter anymore? That night, I lay in bed listening to the sound of the ocean outside my window. It was supposed to be soothing. Instead, it sounded like a warning. The waves crashed against the rocks with a violence that made my chest tight. Somewhere out there, beneath that dark water, were the creatures I would be facing tomorrow. The thought made me nauseous. I thought about calling my daughter, telling her I had changed my mind, asking her to help me book a flight home. But I knew if I did that, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I thought about Margaret again. I thought about all the women who had lived and died without ever taking a risk, without ever choosing themselves. I thought about the version of myself I was about to meet in the water. Would she be brave? Would she be free? Or would she be just as afraid as I had always been? If you've ever felt trapped by your own life, by the expectations others have placed on you, by the fear of what might happen if you finally choose yourself, leave a comment below. I want to hear your story. Because I know I'm not alone in this. And neither are you. The next morning, I met the dive team at the marina. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. It should have been beautiful, but I could barely see it through my anxiety. There were 6 other people signed up for the experience. All of them were in their 20s or 30s. Fit. Confident. Excited. They chatted easily with each other, comparing previous diving experiences, showing off waterproof cameras. And then there was me. A 70-year-old woman in a borrowed wetsuit that was too tight around the middle. The dive instructor was a man named Peter. Late 40s, deeply tanned, with the kind of calm confidence that comes from years of doing dangerous things and surviving. He had sharp blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. He looked at me for a long moment when I introduced myself, and I saw the doubt flash across his face. He covered it quickly with a professional smile. "Welcome," he said. "Have you done any diving before?" I shook my head. "This is my first time." His smile tightened. "First time diving. And you chose sharks." I met his eyes. "I chose sharks." He studied me for another moment, then nodded slowly. "All right then. Let's make sure you're ready." The preparation was intense. Peter went over every safety protocol, every hand signal, every possible scenario. What to do if a shark got too close. How to stay calm. How to breathe. How to move. How to exit the water if something went wrong. He was thorough, professional, and clearly skeptical that I could handle it. I didn't blame him. I was skeptical too. The other divers were friendly but distant. I could feel their curiosity, their confusion about why someone my age was doing this. One of the younger men, Australian with sun-bleached hair and an easy grin, asked me what inspired my decision. I told him about Margaret. About the funeral. About realizing I had never done anything that truly scared me. He nodded thoughtfully. "Fear is just a reminder that you're alive," he said. That's why I do this stuff. Makes me feel real. You stop feeling fear, you stop living. I liked him after that. The boat ride out to the dive site took about 40 minutes. The water was rough, dark gray, and churning. The boat rocked violently with each wave. Several people looked green. I focused on the horizon, trying to keep my breakfast down. I could see dorsal fins in the distance. Seals, someone said. That's what brings the sharks here. I watched those fins cutting through the water and felt my chest tighten. This was real. This was actually happening. Peter gathered us on the deck. The wind whipped his hair around his face. All right, he said, raising his voice over the sound of the engine. Here's how this works. We'll be using a cage for safety. You'll be lowered into the water in small groups. The sharks will be attracted by the bait we've put out. They'll come close, investigate, but they're not interested in you. You're not food. You're not prey. You're just something unusual in their environment. Stay calm. Don't make sudden movements. And whatever you do, don't panic. Panic gets people hurt. I nodded along with everyone else, but my hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets so no one would see. Peter noticed anyway. He walked over to me, crouched down so we were eye level. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. There's no shame in changing your mind. I've had plenty of people back out at this stage. Young people. Experienced divers. It's not a reflection on you. I looked at him. I've spent 70 years changing my mind. Choosing the safe option. Backing down. Being sensible. I'm not doing that today. He smiled. A real smile this time, warm and genuine. Then let's do this. They suited me up in a wetsuit, a weight belt, a mask. Everything felt heavy and constricting. My hands fumbled with the straps and buckles. The Australian helped me, patient and kind. You're going to love this, he said. It's life-changing. I hope so, I told him. Because I really need my life to change. The water was cold, even through the neoprene. Shockingly cold. It took my breath away when I first stepped onto the ladder. When it was my turn to get into the cage, Peter helped me down. His hands were steady and strong. The cage was small, barely big enough for 2 people. The other diver with me was a young woman from Germany, eyes wide with excitement behind her mask. And then we descended. The world above the water disappeared. Everything became blue-gray and murky. Visibility was maybe 20 feet. I could hear my own breathing, loud and ragged through the regulator. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The cold seeped into my bones despite the wetsuit. I gripped the bars of the cage and tried to remember Peter's instructions. Stay calm. Breathe slowly. Don't panic. And then I saw it. A shadow in the distance, massive and graceful. Moving toward us with a kind of lazy confidence that made my blood run cold. The great white shark was bigger than I had imagined. Easily 15 feet long, maybe more. Its body was sleek and powerful, every movement efficient and deliberate. Gray on top, white underneath. Perfectly designed. It circled us slowly, its black eyes unreadable, assessing. I couldn't breathe. I forgot how. I just stared at this creature that had existed long before humans, that had survived mass extinctions and millennia of evolution, that was designed by nature to be perfect at one thing, killing. It came closer. Close enough that I could see the scars on its snout, the rows of teeth visible when its mouth opened slightly, the way its gills flexed as it breathed. And in that moment, I understood something I had never understood before. This animal wasn't evil. It wasn't a monster. It was just alive. Doing what it was meant to do. existing in its own space, completely indifferent to my fear. It didn't care about my age or my regrets or my wasted years. It was simply being what it was, without apology, without shame. The shark passed inches from the cage. I watched it glide by, this magnificent, terrifying, beautiful thing. And something inside me shifted. The fear was still there, but it wasn't in control anymore. I was present. Fully, completely present. Not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. Not wondering what people thought of me or whether I was making a fool of myself. Just here. Just now. Just alive. Another shark appeared. Then another. 3 great whites, circling our cage, investigating, moving on. Each one unique. Different sizes, different scars, different patterns of movement. I watched them with a kind of awe I had never felt before. I had spent my entire life afraid of the wrong things. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of failure. Afraid of disappointing people. Afraid of being too much or not enough. Afraid of taking up space. I had never been afraid of actually living. Time lost meaning down there. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. The German girl kept pointing excitedly at different sharks. I just watched, transfixed. One of them came so close I could have reached through the bars and touched it. I didn't, of course. But the fact that I wanted to, that I felt drawn to it rather than repelled, told me everything I needed to know about how much I had changed in those few minutes underwater. When Peter finally signaled that it was time to surface, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay in that space where nothing existed except this moment, this feeling, this wild, terrifying, beautiful aliveness. When we broke through the surface, I pulled off my mask and gasped. Not from fear. From exhilaration. From joy. From something I couldn't even name. The German girl was laughing, shouting about how incredible it was, how amazing, how she wanted to go back down immediately. I couldn't speak. I just floated there, holding onto the side of the boat, tears mixing with seawater on my face. Peter helped me back onto the deck. His expression had changed. There was respect there now. "How is it?" he asked. I couldn't find the words. So I just smiled. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, it was a real smile. Not polite. Not performative. Real. He nodded like he understood. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." "I did," I whispered. "I really did." The Australian came over, still dripping wet, grinning. "What did I tell you? Life-changing, right?" "Right," I agreed. But not in the way I expected. He tilted his head, curious. "How so?" I paused, trying to articulate what had happened down there. "I thought it would be about conquering fear," I said slowly. "About proving I could do something brave. But it wasn't that at all. It was about remembering. Remembering what it feels like to be fully alive. To be present. To exist without apology." He smiled. "That's even better." That night, back at the guest house, I sat on the small balcony overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, turning everything gold and orange. I called my daughter. When she answered, her voice was tight with worry. "Mom? Are you okay? Did you do it? Please tell me you're safe." "I did," I told her. "I swam with sharks." There was a long pause. And I'm not the same person who left," I said. "I don't know how to explain it, sweetheart. But something changed down there. I remembered who I used to be. Before I became everyone's mother, everyone's wife, everyone's good friend. I remembered the girl who wanted things. Who dreamed big. Who wasn't afraid to be loud and take up space. The girl who wanted to be a journalist and travel the world and write stories that mattered. My daughter was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that broke my heart in the best way. "I'm glad, Mom. I've always wondered what that version of you was like. I think I'd like to meet her." I laughed through tears. "Me too, baby. Me too." We talked for another hour. I told her everything. The fear, the cold, the moment when the first shark appeared. The realization that I had been living my life all wrong. Not wrong, exactly. But not right either. Not for me. She told me she had been thinking about going back to school. She had always wanted to be a therapist, but she had put it off when she got married, then when she had kids, then because it seemed too late. "Does it ever feel too late?" she asked. "No," I told her. "It never feels too late. It only feels too late when you're dead." The rest of my time in South Africa felt different. I explored Cape Town alone, something I would have never done before. I ate at restaurants by myself, not caring if people thought it was sad or strange. I ordered wine with lunch. I tried foods I couldn't pronounce. I asked waiters for recommendations and struck up conversations with strangers at the next table. I went to an art gallery and spent 3 hours looking at paintings. I bought one. A small watercolor of the ocean, abstract and wild. It cost more than I had ever spent on art before. I didn't care. I wanted to remember this feeling. I hiked Table Mountain, my knees aching but my spirit soaring. The trail was steep and rocky. I had to stop several times to catch my breath. Younger hikers passed me, some of them offering encouragement, some of them barely noticing me. I didn't mind. I was doing this for me, not for anyone else. At the summit, I stood looking out over the city and the ocean beyond. The wind whipped my hair around my face. I thought about all the years I had spent playing it safe. All the dreams I had deferred. All the versions of myself I had suppressed to be acceptable, to be good, to be enough. I thought about Margaret. About her list that never got completed. About all the women like us who had been taught that our dreams were selfish, that our desires were secondary, that our lives were meant to be lived in service to others. I made a promise to her, standing on that mountain. I would live differently. Not just for myself, but for all the women who never got the chance. On my last day, I went back to the marina. Peter was there, preparing for another dive. When he saw me, he smiled. "Come to do it again?" "I wish," I said. "But I'm heading home tomorrow." He walked over, wiping his hands on his wetsuit. "You know," he said, "I've been doing this for 15 years. I've taken thousands of people diving with sharks. Young people, mostly. Adrenaline junkies looking for their next thrill. Rich tourists wanting to check something off their bucket list. But you were different." "How so?" "You weren't doing it for the thrill," he said. "You weren't doing it for bragging rights or social media posts or to prove something to anyone else. You were doing it for yourself. To prove something. Not to anyone else. Just to you." I nodded. I spent 70 years proving things to other people. Proving I was a good wife. A good mother. A good friend. Proving I was worthy of love and respect. I figured it was time to prove something to myself. He extended his hand. "It was an honor diving with you." I shook it, surprised by the lump in my throat. "Thank you," I said. "For believing I could do it. Or at least for not stopping me when you thought I couldn't." "I never doubted you," he said. "Not really. I've learned something in this job. The people who succeed aren't the ones who aren't afraid. They're the ones who do it anyway. And you," he pointed at me, "you were terrified. I could see it. But you did it anyway. That's courage." I carried those words with me all the way home. The flight back felt different. Lighter somehow. I watched the landscape disappear beneath me, South Africa getting smaller and smaller until it was just ocean and sky. I thought about the woman who had made this journey a week ago. Terrified. Uncertain. Desperate for something she couldn't name. Haunted by regret and lost years. She wouldn't recognize the woman flying home. When I landed, my daughter was waiting at the airport. She hugged me tight, then pulled back to look at my face. "You're different," she said. "You look different. Your eyes are different." "I feel different," I told her. In the car, she asked me to tell her everything. So I did. I told her about the boat ride, about Peter's skepticism, about the Australian with the easy grin. I told her about descending into the water and seeing that first shark. About the fear and the awe and the moment when everything shifted. When I realized that the scariest thing wasn't the sharks. It was the idea of dying without ever really living. Of reaching the end and realizing I had never been brave enough to be myself. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she said, "I want to do something like that. Something that scares me. Something just for me. Not for my husband or my kids. Just for me." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Then do it, sweetheart. Don't wait until you're 70. Don't wait until your friend dies and you realize you've been living someone else's life. Do it now. While you still have time. While you still have energy. Do it before you accumulate so many regrets that they weigh you down like stones." That was 6 months ago. Since then, my life has transformed in ways I never imagined. I signed up for a creative writing class, something I had wanted to do since I was a teenager. The first day, I was the oldest person in the room by at least 30 years. The instructor asked us to introduce ourselves and explain why we wanted to write. When it was my turn, I said, because I spent 50 years telling other people's stories and I forgot I had my own. I joined a hiking group and started exploring trails I had driven past 1,000 times without ever stopping. My knees complained, but I didn't care. I bought proper hiking boots and a backpack and learned about trail markers and elevation gain. I made friends with people who didn't know me as someone's wife or someone's mother. They just knew me as the woman who hiked. I got a passport stamp in Peru, where I hiked part of the Inca Trail. It was brutal. The altitude made me dizzy. My legs ached for days afterward. I loved every minute of it. I stood at Machu Picchu at sunrise and cried. Not from exhaustion, although I was exhausted. But from joy. From gratitude. From the knowledge that I had finally done something I had dreamed about for 50 years. I cut my hair short. Really short. Pixie cut short. The hairdresser asked if I was sure 3 times. "Are you certain? This is a big change. Maybe we should just take a few inches off first." I was sure. I was more sure about that haircut than I had been about anything in decades. When she was done, I looked in the mirror and saw someone I barely recognized. Someone bold. Someone who didn't care what people thought. Someone who looked like she had stories to tell. I donated most of my clothes and bought things I actually liked, not things I thought were appropriate for a woman my age. Bright colors. Bold patterns. Jeans that fit well. Dresses that made me feel beautiful. I spent money on myself without guilt. Without hearing my mother's voice in my head telling me I was being frivolous. I started saying no to things that drained me. Church committees I had been on for years. Book clubs where we never actually talked about the books. Dinners with people I didn't particularly like but felt obligated to see. I said yes to things that excited me. An improv class. A solo trip to New York to see Broadway shows. A pottery workshop where I made terrible bowls and laughed the entire time. My son worries I'm having a breakdown. He called last month, his voice careful and concerned. Mom, are you okay? You seem different. You're doing all these things. Going all these places. Are you sure you're not overdoing it? Maybe you should slow down a bit. I'm not having a breakdown, I told him. I'm having a breakthrough. There's a difference. My youngest thinks I'm having a renaissance. She loves it. She texts me constantly asking about my adventures. Last week she told me I was her hero. I cried when I read that message. I think I'm just finally becoming myself. The biggest change, though, is internal. I don't apologize anymore for taking up space. I don't make myself smaller to make other people comfortable. I don't live in fear of judgment or disapproval. I don't soften my opinions or hide my enthusiasm or pretend to be less than I am. Because I've stared down a great white shark. I've done the thing that terrified me most. And I survived. More than survived. I thrived. I think about Margaret often. I wish she had taken her trip. I wish she had done something reckless and wild and completely unlike the person everyone expected her to be. I wish she had felt what I felt in that water. That incredible, indescribable aliveness. That sense of being exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. But maybe, in a way, she did. Maybe my journey is partly hers too. Maybe every time I choose courage over comfort, I'm honoring her unlived dreams. Maybe that's how we keep people alive after they're gone. By living the lives they never got to live. I've been asked a lot lately if I regret anything. Regret waiting so long to do this. Regret spending 70 years living small. The truth is, I do. I regret all those years I wasted being afraid. All those dreams I buried. All those moments I chose safety over joy. All the times I said no when I wanted to say yes. All the times I made myself small to make other people comfortable. But I don't regret the journey that brought me here. Because every experience, every compromise, every year of living by the rules prepared me for this moment. For this freedom. For this version of myself. I needed those 70 years to get here. I needed the regret to fuel the change. And I'm not done. Not even close. Next year, I'm planning to go skydiving in New Zealand. My daughter thinks I've lost it completely. My son suggested I see a therapist. My youngest wants to come with me. Maybe I have lost it. Maybe this is what a midlife crisis looks like when you're 70. But you know what? It feels amazing. I'm also thinking about writing a book. About my journey. About swimming with sharks and hiking mountains and finally living. I don't know if anyone will want to read it. I don't really care. I'm writing it for me. For the girl I was at 20. For the woman I am at 70. For Margaret and all the women like her who never got their chance. I'm 70 years old. I've earned the right to be reckless. I've earned the right to be selfish. I've earned the right to chase every crazy dream I've ever had and not apologize for any of it. I've paid my dues. I've done my time being good and responsible and acceptable. Now I'm doing something different. Now I'm being free. People ask me what I learned from swimming with sharks. They expect me to talk about facing fear or living in the moment or some other inspirational cliché. And sure, those things are true. But what I really learned is this: it's never too late. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to do the thing that scares you, the thing that doesn't make sense, the thing that makes people question your sanity. It's never too late to live the life you've been dreaming about instead of the life everyone expects you to live. It's never too late to be free. I spent 70 years being the person everyone needed me to be. And I don't regret it entirely, because that person was loved. She was valued. She mattered. She raised good kids and was a good friend and made a difference in her small corner of the world. But she wasn't me. Not really. She was a carefully constructed version of me, designed to fit into the spaces other people created. The woman who swam with sharks? That's me. The real me. The me I was always meant to be but was too afraid to become. And let me tell you something. She's magnificent. I know some of you watching this are thinking it's too late for you. You're too old. Too stuck. Too afraid. Too responsible. Too broke. Too tired. Too whatever excuse you've been telling yourself for years. I understand. I told myself those same things. I believed them. They felt true. But they're lies. All of them. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not too anything except too scared. And that's okay. Fear is normal. Fear is human. Fear kept our ancestors alive. But fear is also optional. You can feel it and do the thing anyway. You can choose courage. You can choose yourself. You can choose to do that thing that terrifies you, that makes no sense, that everyone will question. You can choose to live. I'm not saying quit your job and move to Bali. I'm not saying abandon your responsibilities or hurt the people you love. I'm saying find that one thing. That thing you've been dreaming about, talking about, putting off. That thing that makes your heart race just thinking about it. That thing you've been telling yourself you'll do someday. And do it. Not someday. Not when the timing is right. Not when you're ready. Not when you have more money or more time or more courage. Now. Do it now. Because here's what I know for sure, you will never feel ready. You will never have enough time. You will never not be afraid. The conditions will never be perfect. There will always be a reason to wait. So you might as well do it anyway. I was 70 years old when I decided to swim with sharks. But really, I was 70 years old when I decided to start living. And it was the best decision I ever made. If this story resonated with you, if you've been putting off your own dreams, if you're tired of living small, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment telling me what your shark is. What's the thing that terrifies and excites you in equal measure? What's the dream you've been burying? What's the life you've been afraid to live? And if you're ready to start living bigger, bolder, and braver, subscribe to this channel. Because I'm just getting started. I've got more adventures planned, more stories to tell, more proof that it's never too late to become who you were always meant to be. I want to tell you about something that happened last week. I was at the grocery store, doing my weekly shopping. I ran into a woman I used to know from church. We had been on committees together, hosted potlucks, the usual. She looked at me with wide eyes. "I heard you went to Africa," she said. "To swim with sharks. At your age." Her tone made it clear she thought I was insane. I smiled. "I did." She shook her head. "Weren't you terrified something would happen? What if you had gotten hurt? What if you had died?" "I could have died crossing the street," I told her. "I could have died in my sleep. I could have died sitting on my couch watching television. At least if I had died swimming with sharks, I would have died doing something incredible. Something that made me feel alive." She didn't know what to say to that. We made awkward small talk for another minute, then went our separate ways. I could feel her watching me as I walked away, probably wondering what had happened to the quiet, agreeable woman she used to know. That woman is gone. And I don't miss her. Here's something else I've learned. When you start living authentically, when you stop apologizing for taking up space, some people won't like it. They'll be uncomfortable. They'll try to make you feel guilty. They'll remind you of your age, your responsibilities, your place. They'll use words like selfish and reckless and inappropriate. Let them. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their fear is not your burden. Their small life is not your destiny. I've lost friends over this. People who couldn't handle the new version of me. People who preferred me small and quiet and predictable. It hurt at first. I worried I was being selfish. I wondered if I should tone it down, be less intense, make myself more palatable. Then I realized something. Those weren't real friendships. Real friends celebrate your growth. Real friends cheer when you finally become yourself. Real friends don't need you to stay small so they feel better about their own choices. The friends I've made since swimming with sharks are different. They're adventurous, curious, alive. They're people who chose themselves, who broke free from expectations, who decided that living authentically was more important than being liked. We share stories and dreams and plans. We encourage each other. We understand each other in a way that only people who have broken free can understand. My writing class has become one of the highlights of my week. I'm working on a memoir. It's rough and messy and probably terrible, but it's mine. Last week, I read a chapter out loud to the class. It was about the moment underwater when I first saw the shark. About the fear and the awe and the realization that I had been afraid of all the wrong things. When I finished reading, the room was quiet. Then a young woman in the back, maybe 25, raised her hand. "That was beautiful," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "My grandmother died last year. She spent her whole life taking care of everyone else. She never did anything for herself. I wish she could have heard your story. I wish she could have had her shark moment." I cried. Right there in front of everyone. Because that's exactly why I'm doing this. Not just for me. For Margaret. For that young woman's grandmother. For every woman who died with her dreams still locked inside her. After class, several people came up to talk to me. They shared their own stories of deferred dreams, of living for others, of waking up one day and realizing they had no idea who they were anymore. One woman, probably in her 50s, told me she had always wanted to learn to sail. Her husband thought it was a waste of money. Her kids thought she was too old to start something new. "I'm going to do it anyway," she said, eyes bright with determination. "You inspired me. If you can swim with sharks at 70, I can learn to sail at 52. That's what I want. Not to be famous or admired or special. Just to show people that it's possible. That you can change. That you can choose yourself. That it's never too late." I've started a journal. Every night, I write down one brave thing I did that day. Some days it's something big, like booking a trip or trying a new activity. Other days it's smaller. Speaking up in a meeting. Wearing an outfit that feels too bold. Saying no to something I don't want to do. Saying yes to something that scares me. The journal is filling up fast. It's evidence. Proof that I'm living differently. Proof that change is possible. My daughter enrolled in graduate school. She starts in the fall. She called to tell me, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "I can't believe I'm doing this," she said. "I'm terrified. What if I'm too old? What if I can't keep up with the younger students? What if I fail? What if you succeed?" I asked. "What if you're amazing? What if this changes your life?" She laughed. "When did you become so wise?" "I'm not wise," I told her. "I'm just done playing small." My youngest is planning a solo backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. 6 months, just her and a backpack. Her husband isn't thrilled, but she's doing it anyway. She told me I inspired her. That watching me choose myself gave her permission to do the same. That might be the best legacy I could leave. Not money or possessions or a spotless reputation. But permission. Permission for other women to be selfish, to be bold, to be free. I've been thinking a lot about what happens next. About how I want to spend whatever time I have left. Because here's the truth, I'm 70 years old. I don't have 50 years ahead of me. I might not even have 20. I might have 10. Or 5. Or 1. That used to terrify me. The inevitability of aging, of decline, of death. Now it motivates me. Every day is precious. Every experience matters. Every choice to be brave instead of safe is a gift. I'm making a list. Not like Margaret's list, gathering dust in a drawer. A real list. With dates and plans and commitments. Things I want to do, places I want to go, versions of myself I want to become. Skydiving in New Zealand next year. Already booked. Learning to surf in Costa Rica the year after. I might break a hip. I don't care. Taking a photography class. Maybe getting good enough to have a small exhibition. Writing my memoir. Publishing it, even if only a few people read it. Going on a safari. Seeing elephants in the wild. Learning a language. Maybe Italian. Maybe Japanese. Something completely different. Spending a month in a cabin alone, writing and hiking and being quiet with myself. The list keeps growing. Every time I cross something off, I add 2 more things. There's so much I want to do. So much life left to live. People ask if I'm afraid of dying now. After swimming with sharks, after all these adventures. The answer is yes and no. I'm afraid of dying before I've lived enough. Before I've done enough brave things, seen enough beautiful places, become enough versions of myself. But I'm not afraid of death itself anymore. Because I know now that the real death isn't when your heart stops beating. It's when you stop trying. When you stop dreaming. When you stop choosing yourself. That's the death I was dying before. Slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. That death is scarier than any shark. I want to leave you with one more story. Last month, I was hiking in the mountains near my home. It was a difficult trail, steep and rocky. About halfway up, I had to stop to catch my breath. An older man, probably in his 80s, was sitting on a rock nearby. He nodded at me. "Beautiful day," he said. "Perfect," I agreed. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then he said, "You know what I regret most about getting old?" I shook my head. "All the things I didn't do," he said. "All the risks I didn't take. All the times I played it safe." He looked out at the view. "I wasted so much time being afraid. And now I'm too old to do half the things I wish I had done." My heart broke for him. But also, I was grateful. Because I knew I would never be that man. I would never sit on a rock at 80, drowning in regret. Because I'm doing it now. All of it. Every scary, beautiful, impossible thing. That's what swimming with sharks gave me. Not just one incredible experience. But permission to live 100 incredible experiences. Permission to be brave. Permission to be free. You have that same permission. You always have. You just have to claim it. So here's my challenge to you. Right now, before you click away from this video, before you go back to your safe, predictable life, I want you to do something. Take out your phone. Open a note. And write down one thing. Just one thing. The thing you've been putting off. The thing that scares you. The thing you tell yourself you'll do someday. Write it down. Then take one action toward making it happen. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Right now. Book the flight. Sign up for the class. Make the phone call. Send the email. Take one step. Because someday might never come. Someday is a lie we tell ourselves to feel better about not living. Someday keeps us safe and small and stuck. Today is real. Today is all we have. Today is when life happens. I was 70 years old when I swam with sharks. When are you going to start swimming with yours? Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving this old woman the space to share her story. I hope it changes something for you. I hope it plants a seed. I hope it gives you permission to be bigger, bolder, braver. Subscribe to this channel if you want to follow along on my journey. I'll be sharing more adventures, more stories, more proof that it's never too late. I want to build a community of people who refuse to let age or fear or expectations keep them small. People who are choosing themselves. People who are finally living. Leave a comment telling me your story. Tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what scares you. Tell me what you're ready to change. I read every comment. I respond to as many as I can. You're not alone in this. We're all swimming with sharks in our own ways. This is my story. What's yours? And remember, the sharks aren't as scary as you think. The real danger is staying in the boat, watching from a distance, wondering what could have been. The real danger is living a life you don't recognize. The real danger is reaching the end and realizing you never really started. Get in the water. Face your fears. Choose yourself. Live. You won't regret it. I promise.